Next podcast with Chris and Todd.
Well, hey, welcome back to the next podcast. I'm here with the Pastor Todd. And
the in there.
Pastor Todd,
like that.
Reverend Todd Lynch.
Also here with Pastor Chris, as you can hear him.
Yes,
there you go.
you can hear me. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah. If not, this podcast is going to be really quiet.
That's never been an issue. Can we hear Chris? Yes, we can. So
yes, we sure can.
Hey, it's good to have you back. Maybe you've been following along in this new season. Maybe you've been diving in. Feel free to share it. Tell people about it. Or at least we hope that you want to share it. Be like, hey, I listened to a podcast the other day. You wouldn't like it. But but not ours. Not ours, definitely. I was thinking about something the other day because I'm a big fan of college football. And they used to have, and I did a sermon on it one time where I showed like signs, like they would have the signs up there, like one would be Batman, one would be McDonald's, and one would be red, and another one would be like traffic, right? And each time they held it up or the direction they held it up, that would be the play they're going to do or the scheme they're going to run, right? Now they don't do that anymore, and so they have communication directly from the booth to the quarterback. And I learned the other day that it cuts off at like 5 seconds or 10 seconds, something like that. The communication cuts off. And like then you've got to figure it out yourself. I say all that to say this. Today on the podcast, we're talking about sidelines to serving. And sometimes sidelines feel like they change, but they really are all the same. There's a lot of people just kind of standing there waiting and hoping to get in the game, right? And another side note, little box. Like there might be guys on the sidelines that don't play, but they're still on the 53-man roster, which is pretty amazing, right? Like, but the same is not in the church world. We don't like have the draft and go through training camp.
Well, maybe
and
we
things
should.
like that.
I like that.
Like church training camp.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. You leave. You pack up. You go to Foxborough.
Can you
for the
cut it
weekend.
as a kids volunteer?
That's
Let's
right.
see it.
Ooh, can you imagine that? That'd be a great reality show.
People be like, no, I can't actually.
Different rooms with kids throwing tantrums or kids really, wanting to learn, and then kids got a pencil in his ear or something like that. I don't know.
It's like in his ear?
It literally lodged in his ear. Like
I need help.
Yeah, yes, you do.
Yes,
and
you do,
so does your
Billy.
mom, I'm sure. So, no, but this idea of sidelines, just gets me thinking like my brain is like squirrel. So, but that really is something that we believe has significant value in it, not just being on the sidelines, because it's easy. I get it. It's easy to come and to dive in and to be anywhere, right? Like, because it's not just necessarily church, even though that's what we're referencing. There are plenty of areas in life, whether our kids are in activities, kids are at school, whatever the case is, where it's so easy to just be on the sidelines of it all, taking it in or just feeling like you're a part of it and supporting it. But man, there are so many other scenarios that are going on and at play.
Yep. Yeah, I think in this conversation, it's important to think about okay, why is serving important? I think all of us down deep, oh yeah, we know it's like something we should do. But I wonder, is we're almost serving in the wrong game or it's the reason I bring that up is I think watching our culture now, there's a lot of obsession with, hey, I want to go see my kids succeed, or I want to go see my own life has just gotten taken off. And, And you somewhat serve in that maybe capacity. Yeah. But it's but all that will come to an end at some point.
Yeah.
Hey, my kid's sports career probably going to end. Probably sooner rather than later.
Or it just never going to take off.
Your career at some point, you're building it, but at some point you also will be okay, I've done this for a while, I'm good.
Yeah.
And so it gets into all right, are you on the sidelines in the wrong thing and playing a game? It would be, the example I could think of is thinking of, I'll go with Patrick Mahomes. Instead of playing in the NFL, he's playing in
why?
Okay,
why?
don't.
I'm just kidding.
He's playing in flag football. Yeah. We're all dude, you're better over here. Come play over here. Yeah. And do your giftings and your talents here. It'd be so good here. And I feel that's how the church gets treated. This is the best game to be playing in. The biggest mission that we could ever be a part of is seeing people come to know Jesus, seeing people go to heaven. And what Satan loves to do is like, hey, you should go play this game.
Yeah.
You should do this game, and you should do this game.
It really is an art of distraction,
and then you're on the
right?
sidelines for the game that is the most important game for all of us.
Yeah.
And I understand we could argue that, but coming from a pastor's perspective, church perspective, but also what Jesus taught when he was here. I mean, he was teaching the disciples, best thing you do is give up your life for one another, to serve one another. He was teaching the disciples that constantly. And so he's like, are you playing that game, or are you playing some other game that you think is important, but it's not as important as this one?
Yeah, really this idea of, taking up a cross, right? Like, and that's the call for the relationship of Jesus is to take up the cross and follow me. Okay, well, if we're going to follow Jesus, we've got to look at everything he says. Like, it's love others, honor your father and mother, don't covet, don't steal your neighbor's donkey, right? All those things. But how to love God and love others? Well, loving God and loving others means getting in the game, I believe, like you're talking about, and just being like, okay, I can show others love by welcoming them in. And we talk about it at church, on a consistent basis. Like, how do we welcome people into the parking lot? We want to show them. And I get it. Our parking lot is chaos on Sundays, especially at West, right? And I love it because it's not just areas of serving that are super difficult or super required. There are so many different areas that we can dive into, and some of them are so just, hey, it just wave and point a wand in the right direction. Some of them are greeting and really making people feel welcome. And then you talked about kids, serving a kids area, or the beauty of it is, like we talked about sidelines kind of jokingly at the beginning, there are so many people on that sidelines that are playing an important role. And some of those individuals on that sideline are just squirting water into the players' mouths on a timeout, right? Some of them are only there when it's time for concussion protocol. Some of them are only there when it's time to wrap an ankle or test out a knee. Some of them are there to help point out, like, hey, had you gone this way, like the play said, we would have got the first down, but you didn't, and those aren't always fun moments to be like, hey, that didn't go how we wanted to. And sometimes serving doesn't go because you think you're excited about one thing of serving, and you get in there and you're like, yeah, maybe this isn't for me. And I've had those conversations, and you have too, right? Like this sense of, man, I thought I wanted that. But then you find this place where people are like, oh, but that ended up being the place. And we have to be willing to have that conversation of am I doing the right things, and am I in the right game? Am I filling my life with things that matter, or things that are just helping me meet a requirement?
Well, I look at it this way. It was like we all could sit here and go, hey, well, I'm serving my kids by taking them all to the places they need to go.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, but so is every other parent.
Yep.
Like, I think sometimes we can label like, well, I serve in this game. I was like, well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of like basic thing. I go, but God calls us beyond, especially as Christians, to go beyond serving just the people you love. Because I go back to like, even sinners would do that.
Yeah.
And so for us as Christians, we're going, hey, we got to go beyond. How am I serving people that I don't even know?
Yeah.
And I may not even enjoy on some levels. And I think the church gives us the opportunity to do that, because you go, I don't know these people. And maybe I know some, but I'm going to serve them. I don't know who's coming in today.
I think we want that, right? We want that. Like, I want it to be comfortable. I want it to work perfect for me. I want it to be. I was listening to a podcast just the other day, and he's like, sometimes God calls you to do things that you might be like, at first, are like, oh, I don't, like you're just saying, this isn't fun, but this is me picking up my cross today and saying, I need to serve. I'm calling to serve. And I think that's an important realization, I think, that we have to make. And I'm glad you made it. Like, it's not just, hey, this is good and this is easy for me. Right. I think we got to get that conversation out the window. Like,
well, and sometimes, taking care of your kids is not easy.
No.
But in the same breath, I'm also going like, but the expectation is all kind of parents are doing that.
Yep.
Whether you're a Christian or not on some levels. But as Christians, we go, not only am I going to take care of my kids and serve, but I also know I need to serve beyond that.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's the part where I go, I get it. Life gets busy. We try to maximize everything. But if we don't have time to serve and be part of God's like bigger game, in my opinion. Game's hard to call it that, but his mission. Then I go, we're missing out on the best game.
Yeah.
We're missing out on being part of the most important thing. And then we wonder why we've got so many people just like, I'm lost with purpose. I'm lost with why am I here? And I go, well, if you're only playing in these ones that you've kind of created, as opposed to the big mission that God has for this world and for humanity, then I go, eventually that smaller mission's going to run out of steam. It's just not going to have the same purpose and weight that it used to because things change.
Yep.
And what used to be important isn't important. But this mission has never changed. It's always been important. What God wants to do with the world and people seeing come to him and having a relationship with him. We're talking about heaven and hell stuff, not how was your record as, for your kids in soccer and football and, hey, they got to do all these things. And here, I'm equally tempted to go down that road too. It's very easy to get obsessed with that stuff.
I would agree. Oh, no, and it is. And you really, and I talk about modeling and you talk about modeling with your kids. Like, what are we going to model to our kids? That is such a key thing. Like your kids go down, you bring your kids to church and they go downstairs if they're young and they're a part of that. But I'm trying to raise adults. You're trying to raise adults. You got a little bit of time to go before you raise adults.
Yeah,
right?
They're not quite there yet, but they're getting close enough.
But I want my girls to know what I want. I want to model what I want them to model when they get to that point. And I've got a couple girls serving, and I love it. And I love that they have a heart to do that. So it's important for me to step off of that just viewing the game and get in the game and really take that step of saying, okay, now granted, sometimes, my job is serving, but there are opportunities outside of my day-to-day job to serve and to be intentional. And it's important for me to do that. But, and granted, like for me, serving is one of those things that was modeled for me. And so it's really a heartbeat of,
same here.
Of who I want to be as an individual. And I get it. Sometimes it's not. But what we have to learn to discover in our relationship with Jesus is that it's so much more than just saying yes to him. It's finding out and discovering what those things are that he has gifted us with and given us the ability to do, because there are some people that are fantastically gifted, taking care of their kids, but also being a blessing so somebody else can be a part of service that's brand new and they can be a blessing in that kids, and they come alive when they serve kids, or they come alive when they're in the coffee shop and you're like, I've never seen anybody have so much joy serving coffee shots. You know what I mean? And it's fun when we discover that our regular day-to-day life is one thing, but stepping into serving and being a part of God's kingdom, being a part of this team of making Fountain Springs or whatever church context you're a part of better, because I can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. David can't do it alone. And we really desire to see people discover what it looks like, because it's not just a participation. It's a growth opportunity as well, to be stretched, to be grown, and because it's a part of that facet of faith. Like if Patrick Mahomes was just a pocket passer, it would be, I know we made a big switch. Sorry about that. If he was just a pocket passer, it is great. He'd probably be a great pocket passer, but there's like, if you've ever watched one game of his, the fact that he can scramble to the left or the right, the fact that he can like dish, throw sideways when he's falling on his hip, you don't discover those things unless you get out of the pocket, unless you walk off the sidelines and go, okay, well, let's see what we can do. And you practice it. And that,
but
really,
you need that situation to present itself. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Because I go, I think down deep as a Christian, hopefully the challenging question is, how are you helping others experience God?
Yeah.
And there should be somewhat of an answer. And I go, your local church is one of the best ways to help in that scenario. Because I go, it's really hard for you to do that on your own.
Yep.
Like to find people and to... Oh man, like the church has got dynamics to where it's got, hey, there's groups, there's singing, there's teaching kids, there's so many elements to it that you can be a part of, that you'd be like, I don't know how I would do this on my own.
Yep, absolutely.
And so now there's some things like, other things you can do on your own, but
Yeah.
this is more like, how am I helping the community? How am I helping these people be able to experience God?
Well, and you get to do it with other people, right?
Right.
Like that's the best part.
And so those are just things with serving that I go challenging. The challenging question is just going, what am I doing to help people know that Jesus is here and he wants a relationship? And what's crazy to me to watch is that as a society, we want more and more and more, but yet we do not, and we almost expect more, but we do not want to help it. Watching my ton of my kids are in sports. The amount of times they need help to ref or to do these things or do that. And I mean, we've got gobs of kids playing.
Yeah.
Parents all over the place.
Yep.
But they struggle to get volunteers everywhere. As a church, we experience this. We have to close classrooms because there's not enough volunteers. But yet, everybody wants their kid to be able to experience that. So it's crazy to me. We all want this, but yet we will not put the weight or the work to help it.
Yeah. You make that.
Doesn't it? It's just weird to me.
It really is.
That is more of society now than it was 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah. All I can think about is, like you said, that the weight, you're like, all I can think about is like a movie quote. I'm going to put the full weight of my administration behind this, but like, think about that. If we really put the full weight of expectations, meeting expectations, right? Like the expectation that we want more and we want this provided, but the expectation is I'm going to give all that I can to make sure that happens. It doesn't mean you're going to be doing it forever. It doesn't mean you're going to, but sometimes you need those people to give it the nudge, or you need the people to be the initiators to say, I'm going to do this to make it happen. And it's so important for us to say, to have a realistic conversation of, because, marriage or life or job, right? Expectations are a key conversation in that, right? Like, do you have realistic expectations, unrealistic expectations, unmet expectations? And all of us want to have realistic expectations, but often they're not. Because like, I have a realistic expectation that we'll never close a classroom. Well, that's great, but we're going to need about 35 more adults to never see that happen.
Or the expectation that people come in with is like, oh, I shouldn't have to go to the kids ministry and then here I can't put my kid in. I go, I get that.
Yeah.
That's our desire too.
It breaks our heart. It
Like,
breaks our heart when a classroom is
Right.
closed. It really does.
It would be the same thing if you went and showed up for a game that day and you're just like, oh, we don't have any refs.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have anybody to like coach the teams. You'd be like,
Yeah.
I guess we won't play.
Yeah.
There'd be an uproar on some of that stuff.
Listen, I was at youth sports this week watching some stuff.
Yeah.
And I applaud those referees that were there. I know they're getting paid, but the level of pay for what they experienced when I was there for a short hour, I would need more money. But that's youth sports, and I get you pay to play.
But youth sports is, to me, a small chasm of what is happening.
I would agree.
In our world, to where we expect, because take kids out of this. Let's go. You have a great experience at church, and you're like, man, that was meaningful. And you're like, that's great. But you just keep consuming it.
Yep.
And you go, you never help anybody else by ushering or greeting or parking or create the atmosphere with a coffee shop. I'm just giving you church examples here, but you go, that was great. I'm glad they did that for me.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes, and I'm guilty of this. I'm not just
Sure.
We can become so selfish. Like, I deserve these experiences,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to help anybody else experience these things.
Yeah, and it's such a weird. I'm just gonna go like dive into the pastor's realm for a second, because there are expectations for you and I. We should meet and be things, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. Whatever. But when somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, you're one of the only ones that makes me feel welcome," and I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I appreciate that. That makes me feel really good, right? But then the other part of me is like, but man, you have the ability to make somebody else feel welcome that's feeling like you. And I want you to, and I need you to take that step. And I don't know what that fearful moment is of that, that white line of the sidelines Like, okay, I've been coming in, I've been watching the game, I've been seeing it. Okay, how do I get my foot on that playing field and get over that mindset of like, I need this one person to connect with me to make me feel, or what is it? And maybe it's me. Maybe it's me not asking like I should, right? Like maybe whatever the case is, I want him somewhere, somehow to switch in his mind to say, I want other people to never feel like I feel. And I want other people to experience what I've had to I never wanted to experience what I've had to experience, because I want to be, for a while there, this sounds weird. You were wearing a difference maker wristband, Todd. Where is it? No, I'm just kidding. I didn't want to be a difference maker anymore. Anyway, but literally like that, where is that in our mindset? Like in moving from taking in the game, like we're talking about, to being a difference maker, to taking up our cross, to being uncomfortable, to be willing to step in and really usher people in to being a part of serving and being part of making a difference and an impact, which is what we want, right?
Yep. In regards to my wristband, I accidentally put it in my like suit coat jacket pocket. And I've forgotten to get it about.
I don't want this married couple to know I'm a difference maker.
Right. Well, you got your wristband saying to get pictures. So I was like, I'll just take it off. But side note, sorry about that.
Todd is a difference maker, wristband or not.
I didn't just take it off because I feel like, no, just kidding. Gosh, now you got me completely distracted. But I was thinking as you were saying, just kind of going, it is crazy how that silent. If a player, coaches will be like, "Hey, here's your time.
Yeah,
this is your time to shine. Like this, you've worked hard. Go play out there." And the player just looked at him and went, "No."
Yeah.
Be like, "Wait, this is it."
Yeah.
We would all be confused. Like you think about like if that was somebody you loved and cared about, and you're watching the
we need you right now.
Interaction on the sidelines, and they're like, "Hey, go in." And he's like, "No, not doing that." It'd be weird, and I feel like. Here's Jesus, our coach.
Yeah.
Going like, hey, I've got to play for you. Like, go out there and do this, and here's how it's going to work. And we just go, no.
Yeah.
And so, in this conversation, this is why it was so important for us to share. Is just like, man, if we could move, you and I both, we've been on the sidelines before,
absolutely,
and we've chosen the sidelines before. But to learning how to play in the field, because I get it, it's easy to be. As they call it in football, like the quarterback couch, whatever,
armchair quarterback.
Yeah, armchair quarterback.
Yeah,
I feel like we do that with life.
Yeah,
like, hey, if I was running this, this is how it'd be better in youth sports. If I was running the church, this is how it'd be. But you're like, but you're not serving. Yeah. You're not helping it. And so, and I understand there's a lot of things you can be a part of, and you have to have your limits and your boundaries and some of that. But I'd go start with step one. It's the most important thing in your life. Are you at least serving in that realm? Then kind of go underneath that and go, okay, how am I helping this? Because you may have to say no to some other things that are good.
Yeah.
But you're going, I feel like I should listen to God first and make sure that his bride, the church, is getting my time.
That's true.
And serving.
Yeah.
And then I'll go like, oh, I've got my family. How am I helping them? I love that they have opportunities to play sports or to play whatever activities or be at school. And how can I serve in those kind of capacities too?
Yep.
And so that becomes, and I understand not all of that may be our passion, but sometimes we serve just because, nope, this is something that matters to me. It affects my life.
Yeah.
I need to be a part of it.
Or we know that there's a need, and we can be available to meet that need, right? And that's why I love like the on-ramps. Like, we have Love Your Neighbor Week in the summer, but every Saturday serve, like the second Saturday of every month, that's a great on-ramp. You're like, I don't even know where to begin. And I get that question a lot. Maybe you do too. I don't know where to begin. Well, come to this and just, serve alongside. And that's the beautiful part about it. You're not doing it alone. You're doing it with other people. You're getting to know other people. And I love those comments that, man, I served and I instantly got to know more people, and that's such a great part about community and doing it as a team and making an impact. One of the other things I was thinking about, and I don't know if we even talked about it. Like I mentioned Ryan in my Ryan Bennett, my friend that passed away, that was part of our parking team. And he would always say, if Jesus died for me, I could do this, and he said that multiple times. So you're like, hey, Ryan, do you need a coat? No, I don't think Jesus had a coat. I'll be all right. Like, and you're just like, okay, right. I think you're missing the point. It's like 20 degrees outside. Right. You should put a coat on. But he had shorts and boots on, and I'm so grateful for moments and conversations like that when people just find joy to serve, and they aren't a part of something, and then they are a part of it, and they're like, I never knew it would be like this, or I never thought I would enjoy it this much, or they're telling other people like, hey, you need to be a part of this. Hey, you should come and experience this. And it's just fun to watch that switch, that when we begin to serve free of self, I think one of our friends, Phil, kind of came up, at least that's the first time I heard it, serving free of self. Just this sense of, man, this isn't about me. It's about what God wants from me and for me. And really being a part of making his bride, the kingdom, a better place for anyone and everyone that's going to come and experience it.
For big components to this, it was going, all right, if you're going to move from sidelines to serving, one first step is it's got to become a conviction in your life.
Yep.
But then the other part of it that Chris is alluding to, there are some blessings, there are some extra outcomes that come out of this of like, hey, I get to connect with people. I actually may find my passion within this. But it's got to start with, man, God did this for me.
Yeah.
And he's calling me to do this for other people. Is that even a conviction to me? Does it matter?
Yeah.
He's calling me into the game. And am I letting fear? Am I letting busyness? Am I letting anything just get in the way and go, no, I'm good on the sidelines?
Yeah.
I mean, it, as sports people, we'd be like, wait, what? But that's true in anything. If even band music, if someone's like, hey, you've got the solo, and they went, no.
Yeah.
I don't, it's just weird.
Yeah.
But yet we do it too often.
Yeah.
So.
No, I love it. And it's fun. I'm just going to brag on Dee Jacobs for a second. Dee, I don't think Dee listens to our podcast.
Well, maybe she'll start.
Yeah, maybe she should. That should be conviction for Dee. Anyway, people that know Dee are like, are you really calling? Yeah, Dee's like my grandma. I love her to death. And but like 3 weeks ago, I just talking with her before service, and I was like, man, I just love you here. And she's like, Pastor Chris, where else am I going to be? Where else am I going to be? And she does. She has that conviction to. She loves seeing people's faces as they go into church. She loves being able to just play a small part, and she's been doing it, since I've been here, and just, when Leonard was around, and they just their heart to serve. And I love that. And I think there are numbers of people that we've talked to or haven't even talked to yet that's their heart. And we want to see them get in the game and allow it to be something that they use to just bring honor and glory to God's kingdom. So
it's good.
Hey, rock and roll. We'll see you next time. Thanks for being a part of it and hanging out with Todd and I. We'll talk to you later.
Let's go.